announcement, but I don't really mean that. So, because I tried to get these guys to let me do this behind closed doors. So, first thing I want to say is that it's just been an unbelievable honor for me. Been awesome, and I want to thank my wife for being here. She's been there every day. But anyway, I'm worried about our guys and the players. You know, I met with them, and I told them, I said, the last time I talked to you, you're national champions. You're still national champions, and you will be until somebody beats you. So there's great leadership on that club. There's unbelievable leadership on our coaching staff. My coaching staff's unbelievable. I've never worked with more loyal guys. I tried to retire a couple weeks ago, and how many guys knowing that they're going to move up and be a head coach and do this and come back and talk me into hanging out. My problem is that what I expect out of my players on the field, I expect out of myself. And I just, right now, I'm not positive that I can give that same effort that I expect of them. I'm not sure I can't, but I will never put the uniform on unless I do it with that same passion as I expect of them. I've been doing this for 31 years. I wish I was one of those guys who could tell you that I wouldn't change a thing, but I'm not one of those guys because I've changed a lot of things. I wish I was as good a coach day one as I was the last day. I wish I would have made every player better. I wish I would have been a guy that didn't make any mistakes. That doesn't happen in coaching. If you want to be a guy that really influences people's lives and you really want to be a coach that gets on the edge, you got to get on the edge, and you got to know you're going to make some mistakes, and you can't be afraid to do that. There's just so many people I could thank. If I start naming people, it would be a shame because we would be here till the cows come home. For me to thank the people that influenced my career, whether it was on the field, whether it was fundraising, whether it was any facet of this job I've had. I think the first player I ever recruited in my entire coaching career is here today. That means something to me, Walk. Thank you. My friends, you know, the thing about coaching is you make friends with people, and that's what's difficult. If this wasn't good, it wouldn't be difficult. It's very, very difficult because it's been very, very good. Without my wife, Susan, I would have never made it, and there is no doubt about that. Without my children, Jonathan, Brett and Ellie and Joe, I wouldn't have made it. Without my parents and my family, I wouldn't have made it. So I am so grateful, thankful, and I can tell you that it's been one of the most humbling experiences of my entire life. I have no oceans to sail, no mountains to climb. I have no hobbies. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. But I am ever grateful because I'm a blessed man.
I think all of us appreciate all that Pat has accomplished here, and what I find interesting is you think about someone who wins 3 national titles at his sport. Think about it in journalism, winning maybe 3 Pulitzer Prizes, and the first thing you do is talk about your own shortcomings and what you wish you could have done better. I think everybody recognizes that Pat Casey is a pretty special person. We had a talk a while ago about his decision, how he would go forward, whether he'd in fact step down or continue to coach. And I assured him that people like me and you and everybody else who like having a winner and like having someone who delivers the goods would be quite happy to have him doing this for the next 20 years. But that's probably not taking his best interests to heart. And he needed to make an affirmative decision about what he wanted to do for himself, for his family. I think he feels good about where he is. As you could hear from his opening comments, this is a guy who worries about what other people need, what other people expect, whether he's letting people down or not letting them down. He has just been everything that we ever could have imagined in a baseball coach here. He's accomplished so much. He's made us very, very proud of the young men that he's coached on and off the field. He's had an extraordinary influence on their development. Many of them have gone on to be just great credits, not only to Beaver Nation, but to their families and communities. And he did that as well as notch a lot of wins and not so many losses. So from my own selfish standpoint, 20 more years of Pat Casey would be pretty good. But I actually care enough about Pat, not just as a coach, but as a friend and a person, that I really want him and Susan and their family to be happy, and they deserve to have time for themselves and to pursue other interests. Pat isn't sure what he's going to do. You know, I know. He's going to still be a teacher. He's going to still be providing service to others. He's going to be finding ways that he can make positive contributions to other people's lives. So I think he'll not only be able to keep busy, but he'll continue to be just an incredible credit to this university and this program. So as I say, from a selfish standpoint, 20 more years would be good. But I'm really happy for Pat and Susan, their family, and whatever course they decide to follow. So, big guy.
Thank you. Thank you. It has been truly amazing to think the impact Coach Casey's had on our baseball team, obviously, but our university and this great state of Oregon and collegiate baseball overall. He truly has an impact. He's had a Hall of Fame career for sure. We talk about a legacy of certainly 3 national championships in a place where a lot of folks, the Northwest, didn't think maybe that could happen. And that is part of his legacy, but there's more to it, I think. And that's in 24 years, the student athletes, the quality of the student athlete he's recruited and his development and care for them about not only how good of baseball players they'll be, but how good of people they'll be. He's molded them, and that certainly will be part of Pat's legacy for sure. I've only known Pat for a couple seasons. Man, they've been good ones for sure. But I want to thank him not only for being the quality and character of man we've all come to see in Pat, but for what he's built, because what he's built is sustained excellence. It's a program that will continue to thrive because of his tremendous leadership. You know, so few individuals in sports get a finish on top. And Pat, with a national championship, finishes on his own terms and being at peace with that. And that's something that we're looking forward to celebrating. And we'll do that in grand fashion at an upcoming football game. And oh, by the way, I want to mention to you all that as we think about Goss Stadium and the renovation, that right deck area will be named Casey Corner moving forward. So we're pleased to do that. Pat will be around once he takes a break. We'll move him over to Associate Athletic Director and continue to utilize those teaching skills and in a mentorship capacity with our coaches and helping me with some fundraising and being an ambassador for our university. So we couldn't be more delighted. Although losing the best coach in America, we'll continue to gain him as a quality individual and in helping our athletic department continue. We've named Coach Pat Bailey as our interim, and we look forward to his leadership, and Coach Yeski as well. Two of the finest assistants in the country continue to run this program, and we couldn't be more excited about that. The continuity that's in place, again, the program that these student athletes have built under the leadership of our assistant coaches and Pat Casey as well. By the way, Pat Bailey will be available after we field questions. So Hank will manage that, and you can talk to Pat Bailey as well. With that, we are delighted to
answer any questions given the circumstances. We lose a great coach, we keep a friend and a mentor, and we move on to the next stage. So with that, any questions you have, please.
We have mics, Evan and Valerie, so please raise your hand. We'll make sure we get to it.
Coach, following the parade that you guys had out here at Goss, you talked about the memories you had this year in Omaha with your family, seeing your boys grow up from the candy store and then the late night walks you had. Looking back over the course of your career now, what are some of the best memories you have with your family coaching here?
Well, those are certainly some of them. And a lot of memories you have with your family are watching them grow up with the program. When I first got here, I have a picture of my daughter running through we used to have a tarp, and there was a tube that you rolled the tarp up on, and she was so small she was running through it. And I can remember that. I can remember throwing batting practice to my kids on the softball field that's now the football practice field. Can remember packing them up and driving to the Fiesta Bowl. A lot of memories, so certainly Omaha is the pinnacle of baseball memories, and we certainly had some great times there with them. And, we watched our kids. My oldest son is, how old is John, 33? So John's 33. I've been a head coach for 31 years, so that's why, he's having a real tough time right now, and I am as well. And like I said, if it wasn't any good, it wouldn't hurt. So,
Coach, was there a deciding factor that made the decision now? Did winning a national championship and finishing on top have anything to do with that?
No. I actually went into Scott's office, and I actually told my wife before the season started, I said, honey, this might be the last one. And she said, I've heard that before. And I did. I went into Scott's office sometime in the middle of the season, maybe March or April, and I just said, hey, I'm not going to ever mention this again, but I just want you to know there's days I feel like, this is my last run, and I'm gonna air it out. I'm gonna air it out, and I'm gonna come every day. And I think players, first of all, I just can't tell you how much I appreciate the players that are here now, that were in the past, whether you're chewing on them or loving on them or whatever, man, those guys made my life. I mean, I think about the people that I coached and that will still send me a text when we win a game. I think about those guys that are out there that are husbands and doctors, teachers, players. It's all about the players, man. And it has absolutely driven me to be the best I could be because, national championships are awesome. They are awesome. And they go in trophy cases and people get to look at them and they mean a lot, but they don't mean one damn thing if you don't have a relationship with the people you work with. And those guys made it. They made me the coach I am. They allowed me to make the mistakes I made. I've learned more from my players than they've learned from me.
Pat, can you just kind of talk about how you're feeling about stepping into this new role and being able to stay here connected with the community and still being here in Corvallis, a place that means so much to you?
Well, I don't feel very good about it. I feel like I'm a coach, but those are my own demons, you know what I mean? So I think that whatever I do, that I will do it as well as I can do it. And I do think I have a real natural tie to a lot of people that support Oregon State, that have supported our baseball program, that are just good people that I've got to know. I think I'd be beneficial being around those people. I think I'd be beneficial being around our athletic department. But I'm a coach. They can put me in anything they want. They can dress me up, but I'm a coach.
Pat, when did the decision crystallize for you?
It hasn't yet. I've struggled with it from the day that we got off the plane. Like I said, and this is a true story, I came in and told my staff I was going to retire, and those guys marched across the office, talked to Scott, and came back and talked to me, and I changed my mind. And Ed kind of helped me out a little bit when I went in there, and he said, I kept telling him, I think I'm letting everybody down. He said, don't make your decisions on that. Get over that. but I do. I feel like I'm letting a lot of people down. I guess you'd feel like that no matter when you retired. I guess people would feel better if you got your tail kicked and you retired. It wouldn't be as bad, right? I wouldn't be letting them down quite as bad. So anyway, there's nothing about this that I feel good about because I'm a coach. But there's also the part of me that understands that what I said, and that is there's a day that somebody walks in and hands you the pink slip and tells you that we're going to let you go. Maybe I'll miss it. Maybe I'll miss it. Maybe I made a mistake, and maybe if I did that, I would be the first guy to tell you, and I would try to get back into coaching. Maybe it's something that it's coaching is hard on me. The Tuesday game is just as important as the Stanford Friday night game, and I mean that, and that's a hard thing. I've had coaches say, hey, we've won 19 in a row. Can you just back off a little bit? Hard for me to do. So coaching's hard. That's the way I do it. That's the way I've always done it. And that's my own issues with that.
Pat mentioned that pink slip. A lot of guys in this profession don't get a chance to write their own way out, certainly riding the way that you have. How satisfying is that you've been here so long and that you're going out on your own record?
Well, I do think that it's nice for somebody to work somewhere for 24 years and you're not having a press conference talking about how great a guy he is, but you had to let him go because he's had 6 losing seasons in a row, So I do understand that. I do understand our industry. When I first got here, I looked at the field and I looked at our situation and knew that we could grow and knew that if we could get out of just the North as a conference, that we could start doing some things regionally. I don't know. There's just so many challenges that I enjoyed, and I think that I don't know if it's you feel so good about going out on your own terms as you just feel good about maybe where the program is and the people that are in the program and the players that are in the program and the players that are coming and the people that will be running this program.
Pat, being probably one of the few people who's been around here long enough to be part of almost your entire career here, you seem to enjoy some of those practices as much as you did the passion of the game. Looking back on that, do you think, was that one of your most enjoyable parts of being part of this, not only building it, but just the day-to-day, being out there at practice as much as the games?
Yeah, I think games are won on the practice field. I do. I think game day is for the players and the practices are for the coaches. I think you got to turn them loose on game day and let them play. And I think during the week you got to be who you are. And we had a really good system. I could walk out to practice and know exactly what Nate was doing, what Bales was doing, what Jinx was doing, what T was doing, or whoever it was. I knew what they were doing. I knew they knew how to do it, and I know that we were going to do it at a level that we felt was better than anybody else. And so I loved practice. You've been around practice a lot. You kept trying to get VP and never did get it. And by the way, our first, well, wasn't that our first, no, it was our second ever game here in a regional was defeating your alma mater with a walk-off home run, by the way. Don't think I don't remember that. So that was 13 years ago. So you squared it up last weekend, though, right?
Pat, you mentioned that you brought up that this could be your last season several times to your wife, and it was never your last season. And then even now you don't seem sold on retirement, but yet here you are. So why is it happening now?
Well, I think that it's because of the fact that I can't go on the field and not be 100% sure that I can do what I want to do the way I want to do it, because I think that's taken away from the players. Players, I really believe they can look at you in the eye and they can read you. And I think if I'm out there and I'm trying to do what I want to do and I'm trying to coach, I don't think that that's fair to them. And so, like I said, if it isn't right, I'm sure I can get back in the game. But I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to go out there and say I'm going to do this and try this and see if it works. And then the guys are out there and then they're struggling, and then it's a miserable situation. And I've been miserable. We won a national championship, and guys ask me where you're at. How come you don't come out? Why don't you do this? And I think that's okay. I mean, I don't think this thing's supposed to be easy. I don't think life's supposed to be easy. I think everything you get in life that's good, you work for. I worked my tail off to be the coach at Oregon State, and so it shouldn't be easy. And I'm not, I'm just not smart enough to tell you that the decision is the exact right decision.
And just to follow up, I guess, with the players you mentioned, how many players have reached out to you today, your former players, and any in particular that might have stood out to you?
Quite a few, and I would say they all stand out to me. Some of them in a different way, and some of them I stay in touch more than with others, just because of the nature of where maybe they live or their personality. But many of those guys have reached out. I was amazed that I was supposed to about 11 o'clock or 10:30. I started getting emails from guys or text messages that said, "Coach, congratulations." So.
Pat, have you given any thought to how you're going to approach this year and going over there? You're going to be passing notes to Bales through the back screen?
No, I'm just going to walk down and start talking to him. Bales and those guys, they just do a great job. Matter of fact, Bales ran the ship for 4 games last year when the umpire ran into me, and so I know he knows how to do that. I tell our guys all the time that we got guys on our staff that are head coaches, could be head coaches, and the loyalty to stay here and work with me at this university says something about our university, about our community, about our players. It's hard to leave players. I mean, it's hard to explain. I said this before the championship game. We're playing for a national championship tonight, and that's what everybody thinks. But we know we got something that's way more important than that. We're playing for each other. We got one game left that we will play together as a team for one another, and the national championship will be a byproduct of that. But it doesn't mean anything if we don't play together and for one another. That was way more important to Trevor Larnick and Kwani and Nick and those guys than it was. If we play for one another, we'll win a national championship. So I believe that. I think our coaching staff believes that. I know it's hard. Our first year in this business, when we went to the South, we were 19 and 35. And I'll tell you what, I could have hung myself, but there was no rope long enough. So I just, it's about the players, and nobody's ever going to change that. And I don't think that that's humbling. I just think that that's a fact.
Pat, the last couple of years, you experienced great success, and you also had to deal with some things that went beyond the game of baseball. Was that hard on you? Did that wear on you in a way that was different than just the grind of coaching?
I think the things that wear on all coaches are the things that happen that a lot of people never are aware of, whether it's a kid that loses a parent, whether it's a kid that has an academic problem, whether it's a kid that has a girl problem, whether it's, if we could just coach, you just walk out there, you don't have an office, you don't have a cell phone, you don't have a computer, you just have a team. Guys would coach for a long time, but that's not how it works. And so I choose to just try to be as close as that I can. I've never been on Facebook. I've never been on Twitter. I do have a Twitter account because Hank puts stuff on there. He tells me before. I've never read a Twitter. I don't even know what you call them. I've never read a Facebook exchange. I don't know what you call those, sharing, something like that. I read my emails, and I read my text messages, and I answer my phone. And all the other stuff is I get it. It's life, and life's not easy, and sometimes it's tougher. And when a young man or a young lady is on your team and you're a coach, and they have a tough time, you have a tough time.
Scott, you chose Pat Bailey as the interim head coach. Why interim? Why not just head coach? And then why not make, if he's not going to be the full-time coach, why do the search at the end of next season?
Why? So the timing, certainly, Kerry, had a lot to do with the strategy around when we'll go out for the search, which is going to be next year. It's very late in the year, so to do a search now would not be, it wouldn't pay off. We'll always, in anything we do, we're going to open up a search. Both, I've talked to Pat, Nate. Those folks are really top-notch assistants, and we would be happy to have them involved in the search. In terms of Pat Bailey being the interim, certainly consultation with Pat, looking at where he's been. He sat in the seat. He has his own national championship. He's been head coach. He's associate head coach now, so it's a natural. But I want to underscore the fact that we're blessed to have two assistant coaches at the caliber of Nate Yeske and Pat Bailey.
Anything else? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
On my hand here, we'll have